welcome to What the Why with Barbara Ann on RVN Television. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, or maybe you're just sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, whether that's in your life, your career, whatever. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point, they felt similarly and they decided to do something about it. And today is no exception. Please join me in welcoming Jose Gonzalez, wealth mindset coach, and the host of the soon-to-be launched The Wealth Mindset podcast. Jose Gonzalez, also known as Mr. Wealth Mindset, is an author, a financial mindset coach, a serial entrepreneur, and an inspirational speaker whose exceptional communication skills allow him to connect with people from all walks of life. His deft storytelling approach enables him to convey complex financial concepts in an easy-to-understand manner effectively. In other words, normal, common, everyday language. A former wow, I'm just full of it today, aren't I? A former chef and graduate of the vaunted French Culinary Institute, Jose possesses over 20 years of experience as an executive chef, a hospitality consultant, and corporate trainer. He has successfully engineered high-level events and campaigns for brands such as Pepsi, Fendi, BMI, and Camarena Tequila. He is the former executive chief of 10 Degrees Bar in NYC's East Village and Harlem's 67 Orange Street Bar. He also spearheaded the successful relaunch of the historic Anchor Spa in New Haven, Connecticut in 2016. Despite his successes as a chef and entrepreneur, Jose has faced personal challenges with his health and weight. He struggled with obesity and other inflammatory and metabolic conditions, something that myself and others can definitely empathize with post-COVID, and it significantly impacted his personal and professional life. However, everything changed when he discovered the ketogenic diet. After researching and experimenting with the diet, Jose lost an incredible 100 pounds in only 5 months. Men. Women, I don't know, we don't have quite that quick of a response, but it is a very effective diet. The point is, he's helped hundreds of people lose thousands of pounds, earning the moniker the Keto Master Chef. He published a keto book in 2018, and he and his wife have done dozens of live cooking shows on YouTube as well as in-person cooking master classes. In 2020, due to the impact of the pandemic, coupled with his lifelong interest in finance and investing, Jose pivoted his business focus to financial literacy and education. He's been quoted as saying, "I believe that financial education is the civil rights movement of our time," and I thoroughly believe that also. His personal health transformation and experience helping people transform their health brought him to the stark realization that the same thing that keeps people living an unhealthy lifestyle is the same thing that keeps people financially destitute. Mindset. Jose decided that the best way he could continue to create impact and help people transform their lives was as a financial mindset coach and wealth strategist. As such, he can empower people looking to overcome the stress of financial hardships and economic turmoil by guiding them on eliminating their limiting beliefs surrounding money and teaching them sound investment strategies. His latest book, Stay Broke: How to Overcome the Limiting Beliefs That Keep People Broke, will be released in July 2023. And his new podcast, as I mentioned at the beginning, the Wealth Mindset Podcast, debuts April 11th at 7 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So for all of you who are in those states that don't do daylight savings times, remember, it debuts Eastern Daylight Time. The podcast delves into the intersection of faith, finances, and relationships to help Christian men and others become the best versions of themselves. Each week, he will lead insightful conversations with experts in their respective fields. as well as real-life stories to help men and others navigate the challenges of mindset, money, and marriage. The show will explore topics like cultivating a growth mindset, managing money in a way that aligns with your values, and tips for a thriving marriage that honors God. I'm really excited he's joining us in the studio for 2-part episodes, so I don't even have to introduce next week's guest because you're meeting this week and next week at the same time. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jose Gonzalez. So yay, you get the round of applause. Yay.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for coming across the bridge and joining us this afternoon. And as our audience out there knows, there's only 2 questions that I consistently ask every guest when they come to the show. And the first one of those is, after reading all of the things that you've done, especially going from, celebrated chef to mindset coach, what did little Jose want to be when he was growing up?
Well, I don't think people, after hearing that, are going to expect this answer. But growing up, I wanted to be Batman.
Awesome. I love it.
Now, on the surface, people might think of the natural draw, which is like, oh, superhero, crime fighter. But, I find the story of Batman and billionaire Bruce Wayne very fascinating on many levels. Now, the first reason that precipitated me to kind of make that goal was that I used to have these like little playing cards, and it would give you each superhero's kind of like personality as a superhero, but then their personality as a regular person. And so Bruce Wayne was a billionaire, and they said his occupation was philanthropist. And as a kid, I didn't know what that meant. It fascinated me, right? And what did we do in the 80s? You had to go to the dictionary and look things up. And so when I realized what a philanthropist was, I'm like, man, I want to do that. I want to be able to have a life of impact where I improve other people's lives. And so while that's his occupation, I think that his alter ego also, had him face his fears, but he basically dedicated his life to improving the lives of others, and I think that that's, a noble cause. So that's what little Jose wanted to be growing up.
All right. So how did little Jose, and it's interesting because there is a common theme there, how did little Jose go from wanting to be Batman, and I used to tell everybody I wanted to be so many different things, and Wonder Woman was on my list. And I thought Catgirl was kind of cool too, but or Catwoman, but she kind of had a bad side. But who wouldn't want to be Eartha Kitt, right?
Well,
so anyway, so this is about you though. So how did little Jose go from wanting to be Batman to chef to the wealth mindset coach?
Yeah, so it was kind of a long road, right, to arrive where I am now. The Batman kind of seemed idealistic, right? And sometimes as we grow up, we don't really know how to realize what our childhood dreams are. So the road to becoming a chef kind of started off, I've been cooking since I was a child, since I was 5 years old with my mother. And it was something that I love to do. It's, it's something that brings nurturing, love, conviviality. Like food is such an epicenter of culture and every social event and gathering. So I've always enjoyed cooking. I never had the ambition to become a chef. I kind of fell into it. And so for a long time, I was actually pursuing a career on the business side of the music industry. And those relationships and that journey, people knew me as a chef. I was doing private chef work. I went to culinary school. I enjoyed the art. I wanted to really master the art for my own pleasure to cook for my friends and family. But those relationships, every time I would connect with people would be like, oh yeah, by the way, he's a chef. Oh, by the way, he's a chef. And that just had me in certain rooms and certain arenas, and a lot of opportunities opened up for me. And I realized that, the business of music wasn't what I thought it was going to be, right? And so for a long time, I find myself chasing it for the wrong reasons. And so I came to this point where I was just like, well, if I'm going to do something, I might as well do something that I enjoy. Now, the profession of being a chef is extremely challenging.
Yes.
But because I enjoyed it truly, I was up for that challenge. So that's kind of how I graduated, so to speak, to being a professional chef. And so my career kind of took off. I worked in New York and Miami for different brands, and I was very blessed to be, to have a lot of great opportunities afforded to me, which I believe I took advantage of. Then my health, as you mentioned, kind of took a turn. Throughout my career for over 20 years, I struggled with health and weight. I was diabetic, I had other metabolic conditions. And that kind of took a big spiral. About 6 years ago, my mother suffered 3 major strokes. So, she's alive and well. She's confined to a bed, but it was a very transformative experience for me because I came to realize, first of all, I was embarrassed that in my early 40s, I didn't even know what a stroke really was. Okay. But my mom's situation brought light to the fact that pretty much everyone in my family either suffers from or passes away from a stroke or a heart attack, right? And I just started to think, like, are my kids gonna have to change my diapers, 20, 30 years from now? And so that really kind of took me down this rabbit hole of focusing on my health. And as you mentioned, that brought me to discovering the ketogenic diet. I was able to lose 100 pounds in 5 months. And going back to my original goal, right, of being this crime fighter, of helping people, improving other people's lives, I said, well, if I can do this, I know there's many other people who are afflicted with this, and so I set out on that path to help other people transform their health as well.
Awesome. Believe it or not, we're at the halfway point. Hence why we're going to do 2 episodes, because we haven't even gotten to the wealth part yet. So please come back after this brief commercial messages for more with Barbara Ann with What the Why and today's special guest, Jose Gonzalez, the Wealth Mindset Coach. Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's special guest, Jose Gonzalez, the Wealth Mindset Coach, and soon to be the Wealth Mindset Podcaster. But we haven't even gotten to the wealth part yet. Before the break, we were talking about your health journey and how you discovered your family history, and then that led you to changing your life, which then put you on the path to changing the lives of others as it related to their health. And what are some of the things that you learned as part of that experience?
So what I learned is, and this kind of bleeds into, what I do now, is that, everyone knows how to be healthy, right? Like, for the most part, right? As adults, everyone knows what they need to do to live a healthy lifestyle. But for me, and I struggled for so many years while I was actively trying to improve my health, and when I finally was able to make that change, it kind of dawned on me, like, why is it that people struggle, right? If right? I used to watch G.I. Joe, and they said knowing is half the battle, right? If people know how to get healthy for the most part, or where to get the information, why do people struggle? And what I realized, that it's mindset, right? And so what's mindset? Mindset are a set of beliefs that we have accepted. All right, and I emphasize the accepted part because at the end of the day, you have the freedom to believe whatever it is that you want. Now, a lot of our beliefs come to us, from our early years, our formative years, but people rarely self-audit the things that they believe and why they believe them. And because of that, because it operates mostly on our subconscious, we never think about it consciously, about the fact that, I can change. I can change what I believe. I can change what I've accepted. I can change my mind, right? And so I came to that realization, and it just really got brought to light the more that I would work with people, and they would say, oh, well, you don't, and I used to say a lot of these things, right? I used to have this negative self-talk where I would tell people stuff like, oh, you don't understand, I can't drink water, it like swishes in my stomach, and and right, we create these beliefs to justify whatever it is, that our life is. But once I made that realization, I started to kind of learn how the brain works, how our subconscious mind works, and how you actually start to change. I started to implement it for myself. and that allowed me to help other people who were willing, because that's a big part of it, right? You can't change, right? They say you can lead a horse to water,
Right.
Or you can lead someone to keto, right?
Yes.
And another thing about keto while we're on it is that I did keto because it worked for me. I liked it. It gave me confirmation bias to the things that I like to eat. But I tell people all the time, you don't have to do keto to lose weight. So I just want to preface by saying that it's more about having a commitment, a set of beliefs where you're going to prioritize your health. And then there's many different diets and protocols that you can, adhere to transform. But that's what I realized through that path. People are where they are because of the things that they choose to believe.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting. I mentioned when I was going through the opening that I definitely can appreciate your journey because a lot of people don't realize that those who struggle with long COVID, which my viewers know is something that I do and I've had a number of guests on, develop a lot of food issues and dietary issues. And in my case, I was literally put on a almost forced keto diet because of food intolerances, like things that I loved to eat that I even ate the first couple of through the first couple of infections, and then around the fourth infection, I couldn't even eat those, like broccoli and things. But the key, and those who are part of the long COVID community that lost weight across the board, we cannot eat carbs and sugar. And if we do, it's got to be tiny amounts, nut-based, and yet, even with the knowledge that that can cause pain and further damage, you see people with a mindset that they still will not change their diet. I mean, diabetes and other health issues, and you're right, because any diet works, right? But those, unless it's right there in front of you and a family member and it's struggling, it's kind of future looking.
Yes.
But when you physically will not change your mindset, even though it is causing you physical pain, that is someone who's really stuck in their mindset. And I'm sure that you encountered that.
Definitely. So my parents emigrated here to New York and United States from Dominican Republic. And for so many people, food is culture. And I'll go a step further to say food is religion. Okay? And sometimes when you try to preach to people about why they need to change, you're really unknowingly attacking their identity.
Yes.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So like in my community of Spanish-speaking people, when I would say to them, hey, that hypertension, those high blood pressure pills that your doctor's giving you, it's caused by your rice and beans, like they were ready to get their machetes out, right?
Yep.
And
how dare you?
Okay, but this is deep rooted, like, because you're challenging someone's upbringing, right? The things that they've been taught from their loving mother and grandmother who fed them these foods, and it's a part of who they are, which is why, again, I say the role that mindset plays, right? Because it's a set of beliefs that we have accepted, all right? And so when you try to educate, enlighten, or share with people the reality of certain things, right? We're talking about science, okay? It's just hard. And then again, people have been programmed to revere experts, and as a layman, it's illegal, right, for me to diagnose or prescribe anything, and it's even illegal for me to contradict what your doctor's telling you.
Yes.
So when I was working with people and they had specific medical questions, I would just refer them to other doctors in the keto community, right? Because I can't cross that bridge. All I can tell you is information that you can almost find anywhere, what worked for me, and I can help you change your mind about it. But once you start talking about, well, I have this condition, I have that condition, I'm on these pills, what do? Then I refer you to someone in the medical community who's an advocate of keto to help you.
Yeah. And now here's an interesting question that you may or may not be a little bit sidelined by, but also having a faith walk, and so many family members that do, it's refreshing to hear you talk about the science, because so often what you see is well, I'm just going to pray it away. Just pray it away, pray it away, pray it away, pray it away. And God gives us free will.
Absolutely.
And God gives us science, and God gives us the ability to make choices. And how did you manage that as part of the journey? Because I imagine that you also encountered that along the way as well.
Absolutely. And you know, one of my favorite quotes is from Frederick Douglass. And he said, for 20 years, I got on my knees and prayed. And when I got off my knees, God finally answered my prayers, right? So I'm a Christian, I'm a believer and follower of Jesus Christ, and I believe in the power of prayer, absolutely. But, you know, they say in the Bible, faith without works is dead, right? So you have to pray to catch the bus, then you have to run after the bus, right?
Yes.
You have to take action. And you know, the things that we have, you know, science and food, all of these things, you know, were provided to us by the Creator, you know, or whatever higher power people, you know, choose to accept. But for me, it's about, like you said, God gave me a free will. You know, I always think about the story of the talents in the Bible, when God gives everyone these talents, right? And the person who didn't use their talents, not only he took them away and gave them to someone else who had more, okay? So, you know, he gives us these abilities, he gives us, but we have to use them. So, I mean, the same people that say, I'm gonna pray on this, they also take their doctor's advice, right? So, you know, but again, like I said, food is culture, food is religion, and sometimes you're really tapping into a very sensitive topic when you're trying to help someone with that because, you know, of where their mind is at.
So how did you figure this out?
You know, Jim Rohn talks about 4 major emotions that can change your life in one day, right? And one of those is resolve, which has to do when something happens and you're just like, okay, like something's got, you know, like something dramatic happens, right? So for me, the situation with my mother and kind of seeing that, is this forecasting what my life is gonna be like, you know? When I'm in my 80s and 90s, is this what I'm looking forward to? So I kind of have that picture, right? Because although she's alive and well and we're so blessed to have her, you know, it's I don't want to use this word, but it's what it winds up being for so many families who are dealing with ailing older parents. It winds up becoming an emotional and financial and sometimes physical burden. Okay? Not the person, but the situation. Okay? And I just said to myself, I don't want to be confined to a bed. If it's in my control to prevent a stroke or a heart attack or any one of these diseases, I'm going to do it. Okay? And I don't want to be in a situation in the future where I'm a burden to my children or my loved ones. Right? I want to give myself the best chance to live the best life, right? And again, God gave us this life and we're supposed to maximize it. We're supposed to be fruitful. So that situation for me was an eye-opener, and it kind of made me take a look in the mirror and acknowledge that to the degree possible, the life that I'm going to live and the quality of that life is pretty much my doing, right? So I perhaps my parents didn't have the information that we had, right? But I do. Right? So I know if I find myself in that situation, it's not going to be because of ignorance. It can be because I deliberately just chose to I wasn't willing to put in the work. So that has kind of really, you know, been an instrumental part of who I became, who I am, and just I decided, you know, if my life is a book, I'm going to make sure I author every chapter.
Awesome, awesome. Believe it or not, we are done part 1 of our 2-part episode, and you know, I'm really looking forward to coming back because so much of what you dealt with in terms of mindset with people around their diet is transferable to what you deal with in terms of people with their mindset around money. So just as part of the regular closing of the episode, what is the best way for people to reach you?
Absolutely. So people can follow me on social media, Mr. Wealth Mindset. That's MR Wealth Mindset on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, or you can email me at the website info@thewealthmindsetpodcast.com.
Awesome. And so thank you for being
you.
here again. And please make sure, that you tune back in for next week's episode, even though we're filming them here together. We're going to do a Steve Harvey and do a little costume change and pretend. So there I go. I already broke the secret. But we have some other exciting guests coming up even beyond the two-part series that we're doing with Jose Gonzalez. So please believe me when I say you don't want to miss what any of our future guests have to say about their journeys. And if you miss what any of our past guests had to say and you want to check it out, you can go to RVN Television's website as well as Roku and catch all of Season 1 and Season 2 to date on demand at rvntelevision.com. You have so many viewing choices these days. So many viewing choices these days. So thank you very much for watching our show, and please remember to tell a friend or colleague about us. As a reminder, What the Why airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, as well as on, did I say Tuesdays and Thursdays? Yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m., as well as Mondays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Also within approximately 48 to 72 hours of when the episode airs, it becomes available on demand on rvntelevision.com as well as Roku. And other platforms, I believe. I'm still getting the handle of some of the newer platforms that we're on. I know I watch us on Amazon personally. And please remember, whether you're looking to make changes in your life or your career or your relationships, no matter how big or small, please join us again for more informative and inspirational conversations with guests such as Jose, who wanted to make changes and overcame whatever challenges, real perceived or fears or perceptions they had in their lives, to find their purpose and live it.